I love you.
No, you don't, Cecil. Not really. It's only something else. Something you own. A painting. A Leonardo. I don't want to be a Leonardo. I want to be myself.
She was born into a life of privilege, and she's become synonymous with elegant ingenues in period costumes.
You love me, you hate me. You show me a sensitive side, then you turn into a total asshole. Is that a pretty accurate description of our relationship?
She made an indelible impression on a generation, and she's not even in her prime.
But Helena Bonham Carter has had her share of family tragedy, and her evolution from corseted young novice to cutting-edge actress has been hard-won.
She looked like a simpering Victorian, but she is very feisty.
You know, there are people who the planes of their face just go pow on the camera, and she's got that.
Helena is not a demure Edwardian girl. She's got the dirtiest laugh I've ever heard in my life. She's pretty out there.
London in 1966 was a world of drugs, mods and rockers, and Carnaby Street was the place to be. And John Lennon proclaimed that the Fab Four were more popular than Jesus. But in the wealthy suburb of Golders Green, on the 26th of May, Helena Bonham Carter was born into a completely different kind of world. The third child of Helena and Raymond Bonham Carter, Helena was the newest addition to one of England's most distinguished political families.
My father's grandfather was Herbert Henry Asquith, who until Mrs. Thatcher was the longest-serving Prime Minister at the turn of the century. And he had some remarkable children, one of whom was Violet Asquith, who was my father's mother. The biography of Winston Churchill was a well-known politician in her own right. So a strong political connection running through the family.
Although she was born a blue blood, and her father, Raymond, was a successful merchant banker who loved pampering his only daughter, her mother, Helena, was more unconventional. She was a psychotherapist who'd been raised in France. A striking beauty, she was outgoing and independent.
And my mother is foreign in the sense of being French and Spanish, but also Russian and Czech. She's a sort of intuitive judge of people's character.
I know when Tom was at Harrow, one of the boys saying to him, "Is yours the mother with the loony hats?" And Helena inherited a bit of that taste.
Young Helena was the spitting image of her strong-willed mother in both looks and personality. The headstrong little girl pestered her older brothers, Thomas and Edward, and followed them everywhere. And she showed off her fondness for drama when she didn't get her own way.
And one day she decided to leave the house, and she went up outside and she sat on the gate post with her back to the house. Another time I think she got as far as the bus stop and came back. She had strong character for someone of her age.
Helena also had a vivid imagination. She devoured books of fairy tales and fables. And in 1971, when her parents went to the theatre to see Lisa Harrow on stage, Helena was starstruck. The 5-year-old adored the flamboyant actress who seemed larger than life.
She was a friend of ours. Helena admired her immensely, and she'd seen her on the stage. I think it was in Othello. And she was a very beautiful woman, and that struck Helena. I think that was her biggest inspiration.
Helena decided then and there that she too would grow up to be an actress.
She wrote a letter when she was about 6 or 7 to a friend of the family saying, "Keep this letter because one day I'm going to be very famous."
Helena immediately began plotting her future. She took piano lessons and tuned into classic Hollywood musicals on TV.
I was always fascinated by film and television, and I really remember as a child thinking that if you were inside that box, you would be in that world.
Helena also kept a diary in which she demonstrated a precocious flair for storytelling.
But once we all went off to Kenya, and Hallie obviously came with us, and we were going on safari looking at all the animals around in Africa. And there was one entry in her diary which read something like, "We got charged by an elephant today, but not very badly." So, yeah, no, she's got a fertile imagination.
By the age of 9, Helena was one of the top students at South Hampstead High School for Girls. And although she was a keen competitor in sports, she was happiest when she had her nose in a novel, or could lose herself in dreams of becoming an undercover agent. Like the women in Charlie's Angels.
They're brilliant, they're beautiful.
By the time she was 12, Helena had cajoled her to allowing her to take weekend acting classes for children at the Old Vic Theatre in London.
I think there was a craze, you know how girls get crazes at school. In this case, they all wanted to become actresses, and I know Helly thought this was a good idea. We thought that they'd do it and see what happens.
But in 1979, Helena's world was shaken when her 50-year-old father was diagnosed with a brain tumour. The Bonham Carters remained hopeful when doctors informed them the tumour was benign. And in October, Raymond underwent surgery to remove the growth. Greatly relieved, the family prepared for his return home. But during the operation, Helena's father suffered a massive stroke, leaving him paralysed and legally blind. Helena was devastated to see her vital and athletic father confined to a wheelchair. The doted-on 13-year-old now became one of her father's principal carers, while her mother went back to work part-time as a psychotherapist, and her brothers returned to university.
My father fell ill in '78 and he was in hospital quite extended periods of time, and you know, he went in by and large a healthy man and came out in a wheelchair. It probably made Helly more determined in a way, and arguably more self-sufficient.
Weighed down by responsibilities at home, Helena relied on her imagination for escape. She pored over magazines and even dressed up dramatically, fantasizing about dates with handsome actors.
When she was a teenager, there was a film called The French Lieutenant's Woman, starring Jeremy Irons. And Helena was so obsessed with Jeremy Irons that she used to walk past his house wearing a cloak with a hood, I think like every day or something, hoping that he'd spot her.
1979 was a time of rebellion, as London's youth embraced punk music and the art of shocking their elders. Unlike many teenagers, Helena remained sheltered both at home and at school, daydreaming about her future as an actress, although she was unsure about what that really entailed. She was so impressed when a school friend signed with an agent that Helena set out to find one for herself. That year, when she won a prize in a national school poetry contest, she spent her winnings on a quarter-page ad in the casting directory Spotlight.
She called up the son of a friend in Hampstead who was a professional photographer. He provided her with the photograph, was happy to do so at no charge, and then nothing happened for a long time.
Helena, however, was patient, and her ethereal looks eventually caught the eye of a local agent. After months of after-school auditions, the 16-year-old landed her first job, dressed as Juliet in a television commercial. Helena now considered following the traditional path to becoming an actress, attending university, then a prestigious drama academy for a more formal training. In 1982, she started at the elite Westminster School. Buoyed by the experience of professional work, she pushed herself even harder, both scholastically and theatrically. Helena thrived in the challenging environment. She felt at ease with a small circle of girlfriends, and boys fell for the striking young woman with the chestnut brown hair. She was uncomfortable when others focused on her looks, and dressed down her beauty by wearing little makeup and hiding in baggy clothing. Her plans for a career on the stage received a boost when she was cast in a student production of The Importance of Being Earnest.